My father, Cliff Anderson, was a foreman on a peach and almond ranch, and my mother, Elta, was a full-time homemaker. In high school, I was an A student, a cheerleader, and homecoming princess. I don't know where I got the nerve to be a cheerleader. Unlike Laci, I was always shy, self-conscious, and easily intimidated. During my freshman year, I started dating Dennis Rocha, the son of a dairyman whose Portuguese family had deep roots in Escalon. Dennis was already attending Modesto Junior College when a mutual friend introduced us at a dance in Turlock. We became serious very quickly. After I graduated from high school in 1969, Dennis and I married in a traditional ceremony at St. Patrick's Church, attended by 400 people, most of them Dennis's relatives, or so it seemed. We moved into a new 3-bedroom home on the north end of his family's 365-acre ranch. I started Modesto Junior College, but left by the end of the year, feeling pressure to be a wife, not a student. My first child, Brent, arrived in 1971. As much as he became the center of my world, I sensed that I had married and left school too young. I couldn't articulate it then, but I felt I might have cheated myself from life experiences. But I kept those thoughts to myself. Besides, my life wasn't terrible. Nearly 4 years later, I got pregnant again, this time with Laci. I wish I could remember more about carrying her for those 9 months, but I'm afraid the pregnancy was uneventful, other than the time I got sick eating a bowl of banana nut ice cream, which, in reality, I didn't even like. I also craved hot fudge sundaes and See's candy, and ate my fair share. "No wonder I'm chubby," Laci said when she was 12 years old, and I told her about the significant amounts of chocolate I ate while pregnant with her. "I didn't stand a chance because of all the chocolate you ate while you carried me." True to form, Laci arrived right on time, on her due date of May 4th, 1975. I named Laci after a pretty girl I had met when I was in high school. I'd done the same with Brent, his namesake being one of Dennis's college buddies who I thought was very handsome. Having felt so good through my pregnancy, I sensed Laci was going to be an easy baby, and I was right. It took just 2 weeks until she slept through the night, and she almost always woke up in the best mood. On most mornings, I found her sitting in her green spindle crib with a smile on her face, staring at the yellow and orange elephant quilt on the wall. She amused herself and smiled all the time. I hate to boast, but she was so cute. I still look at those pictures and I want to squeeze her. Just after Laci turned 1, I split from Dennis, proof that I spoke from experience when I later declared to Scott that divorce is always an option, not murder. At the time we split, I thought the reasons were complicated, but I now know that I was simply facing what I felt in my gut. I'd married too young. Except for my children, nearly everything in my life was left over from high school, and it didn't feel right. I was still in my early 20s, and I craved more. I took Brent and Laci and moved in with a friend in Escalon. Then we rented a house in Modesto. Around Christmas time, Dennis and I got back together. The holidays were hard on both of us, but the reconciliation lasted only a few weeks, and this time, when we split, it was permanent, though today we have a good relationship. I got an office job in the shipping-receiving warehouse for Standard Brands, which, after mergers and acquisitions, became Nabisco and then RJR. A few months later, my cousin Gwen called me at work and said she wanted me to meet a guy. Even though it was a Friday night in November and I didn't have plans, I said no. I wasn't in the mood for romantic stuff. "Sharon, his name is Ron Gransky, and he's a nice guy," she said. "No thanks," I said and hung up. She called back 3 or 4 times and persisted until she wore me down. Still, I didn't want to go by myself, so I brought a girlfriend from work. We met Gwen and her husband, Harvey Kemple, at a local hangout. At that time, Ron worked for Harvey in construction. Initially, Ron mistook my girlfriend for me. Wishful thinking, I imagine. She was very pretty. Nevertheless, he and I hit it off that first night. We talked and laughed for hours. I told my friends that he had made me feel comfortable, which wasn't easy given my thick reserve. But I hadn't met anyone with Ron's qualities. I liked that he was at ease with himself and very confident. At the time we met, he was divorced and in Modesto working construction. He was ambitious, solid, funny, and he made me feel good about myself. A year and a half after Gwen introduced us, Ron and I moved into a 3-bedroom home with Brent, then 8, and Laci, 4. Why didn't we ever marry? Well, we planned to. In 1981, we were actually in the midst of making arrangements when my father was killed in an automobile accident. It was an awful ordeal, and obviously everything was canceled. Then the next time we talked about getting married, Ron's father passed away. We got the message. Since both of us wanted to keep our mothers around, we agreed the only aisle we would walk down together would be the one at the grocery store. By the time she was in kindergarten, Laci was always the center of attention. I can still picture her as a kindergartner, walking out the door with her Hello Kitty t-shirts, lunchbox, and notebook. All the parent-teacher conferences were the same. Laci is a good student, but she's a little chatty. I think she was simply enthusiastic. For instance, Laci loved to dance. Actually, she didn't know how to dance, since she didn't have the patience for dance class, so she just kind of jiggled. I will never forget visiting her classroom one day for show and tell and seeing her shaking her head from side to side, with her little arms out in front, snapping her fingers, feet about shoulder-width apart, and the biggest smile on her face. After a minute, the teacher stopped the music and said, "Very nice, Laci." "But I'm not done," Laci said. I don't think she ever felt done. Laci loved animals and all of God's little creatures. One day, she'd been outside playing when she burst through the door and came running into the kitchen where I was preparing dinner. "Mom, look what I found," she said, holding out her hand. I saw that she was holding several little bugs, roly-polies. It had rained the night before, and she found them in the gutter near the sidewalk. "Mom, do we have something to put them in? I want to keep them." I took a lid from an empty jar and punched holes in it. Then I showed her how to put her roly-polies into the jar and close the lid so they wouldn't get out. Of course, she insisted on doing it all by herself and took off walking down the hallway towards her bedroom with the jar in one hand and bugs in the other. After dinner, I went into her room and saw the jar sitting on the window seat. When I realized that the lid wasn't on the jar, I took a closer look inside. There were no roly-polies in it. Instead, as Laci pointed out to me, they were rolling around on the carpet. She didn't put the lid on the jar because she was afraid the bugs would die. She didn't quite get the concept of the holes in the lid. I had to laugh as I watched her crawling around on the floor trying to retrieve all the bugs. She picked them up and put them in the jar, and this time I put the lid on it. In 2nd grade, she received a certificate for neatness, though her bedroom told a different story. On her 4th grade progress report, her teacher wrote, "Another fantastic quarter for Laci. She has great potential." In 5th grade, she brought home straight A's. Laci's grades speak for themselves. Her teacher said in the remarks section, "She is an outstanding student and a cooperative member of the class. I enjoy being her teacher." She had flair and personality, and I think it was evident in the adorable cards and notes she drew for every occasion. She stamped her loving spirit on everything. Here's another note I found. "Mom, I want to thank you for doing things for me," she wrote. "You're my favorite mom." On my birthday, she drew a large birthday cake with lots of sparkling candles, beneath which she wrote in colorful, flowing crayon, "To a special person. I love that person. She is a really pretty mom. Love, Laci." Laci said she was 5 feet 1 inch, but that was probably an inch generous. She didn't stand a chance at growing much past 5 feet tall. Both sides of the family tend to be short. I can still hear her gripe. "It's not fair. Brent's tall and thin, and I'm short." Still, she didn't let that bother her. In 8th grade, inspired by a pretty girl from down the street, Laci became a cheerleader for a football team in the local Pop Warner League. The yelling, the noise, the outfits, the attention, all of it was right up her alley. She loved it. About that same time, she also discovered boys, and soon my little social darling got in trouble for the first time. I had dropped Laci and her friend Amber at Roller King, the local skating rink. Amber's mother